Dr. E, thank you so much. Welcome to Kampung Palliative Care channel.
Thank you.
Just so grateful that you've taken time to be with us on this channel. If you remember, Dr. E, it's been about several weeks since we last met. And when during our conversation, you mentioned why you thought it was important to have community involvement in palliative care. And I thought maybe you could elaborate on what it means to you. How do you think it could translate into action within the community?
Yeah, I think community involvement in everything, not just palliative care, is very vital. You just think of it, the irony of it, we successfully promote volunteerism. And people travel across the island to be volunteers in the food hub, but totally unaware that his or her neighbor needs attention and needs help. So if every one of us care enough for the person living next door, you don't need to have big organizations to provide volunteers that go across the island to do good, yet failing to do good for your immediate neighbor. So I think if the community is involved, just being attentive to who needs help, that is just right beside you, I think you can solve a lot of problems. Now, why should a third party be involved? We are not naturally made to be a caregiver, and to be a caregiver takes a lot out of our life in terms of energy, time. Just think of it, especially in the case of women, we have to be a caregiver. The woman has multiple roles, and very often you'll find that she's overly stretched and stressed because she has to be a wife, a mother, a daughter, and if it's a dual income family, trying to make a living as well. And then on top of it, to provide care for someone that needs attention, in the case of palliative, for someone that is suffering and probably towards the end of their life, something has to give. And having a neighbor or someone in the neighborhood to come and assist will go a long way to provide relief. It doesn't have to be something medical. It can just be, okay, why don't you take a break? I'll just pay attention. If there's anything, I'll shut up for you. And let the caregiver go and have a half an hour, 1 hour nap or have a break. That goes a long way to helping. So community involvement doesn't have to be technical, doesn't have to be difficult. It's as simple as just being there for the person. And that goes a long way to helping the caregiver itself.
And Dr. E, you really mentioned a very interesting point. And firstly, thank you. As a woman, I'm so relieved that you understand the pressures that we women we face.
Sure.
Because being in Asian society, generally caregiving is falls on the women in the household. And you're right to say that we have multiple roles to play, and sooner or later we all have 24 hours. Definitely one ball is going to drop. And without that support and understanding, the kind of impact that it has on the mental health of the caregiver is tremendous.
Yeah, but before we go into the role of the community, the role of the family itself needs to be reevaluated. So typically now with small families, husband and wife may be the only child in their respective families. So these two will be looking after 4 parents who are aging, who may need attention. On top of it, if they have their children, and who also needs attention. Now in today's society, very often the children are not asked to provide any assistance at home. Unlike in the old days, we were all taught from a very young age to help to do some of the cleaning, to even help to serve, put the food on the table. But today's children, we just told to study. So they're not even contributing within the home itself to provide relief. So this is where, unless something changed, the members of the community can really come and help. If nothing more, to take away some of the stress from the mother and say, okay, why don't you just pay attention to the person that needs caring? I'll help your children with the homework. Or I'll provide some coaching to the children, or I'll take your children out for a break to the park and so forth. So help can come in many ways. It doesn't have to be technical or difficult.
No, absolutely. Sometimes all the caregivers what they need is that half an hour, that is just a me time. And really beautifully put, because community support, while we all want to do something good for the community, there's nothing wrong in being part of an organized community, voluntary, effort. But why not someone who needs, as you said, your neighbor, or it could be someone, your colleague, your former colleague, or people that you go to places of worship with, and that you meet weekly. If you can provide some sort of support.
There are many examples that we can tap on.
Yes.
If you know your neighbor is being stressed out, having to care for our elderly, is sick, and you're cooking a meal for your own family, cook a little bit extra, and just send a bowl or whatever it is over, and that is a big relief, as well as affirmative that I'm here to support you.
Absolutely. Do you, Dr. E, in Singapore, we're very, very blessed. We have, I would say world class in healthcare services, and palliative care is not, it's again an area where the government has put in resources, and we can see very good medical care even in the hospital setting, and hospices have gone on to even provide home hospice care. In addition to this, how do you think the psychosocial well-being of that person needs to be considered? In your view, do you think that is an important thing besides the medical aspect of it?
I think it's extremely important because it's associated with end of life. And many people fear and stress over the thought of that I'm going to die. But if you think of it seriously, what is there to fear about dying? Let's take it for example, if you are a free thinker and have no religion. So it's nothingness. Where does the fear surface? If you're a Christian, end of life is something you should welcome because you're going home, you're going to heaven. Or whatever religion, you're moving forward to something good. So the fear arises because of unfinished business. And really this is something that is the lack of preparation, because everyone forgets the only guarantee in life is death. It will happen, whether you want it or not. It will happen. The problem is you don't know when it will happen. It's nothing to do with aging. It can happen when you're very young age. It can happen even when you're just 1 year old. So it's very important to avoid having unfinished business, and therefore being fearful of death is to live your life meaningfully, truthfully, purposefully. So every morning when you wake up, that is another day granted to you, because there's no guarantee each night when you go to bed that you're going to wake up.
Very true.
And if you wake up well, not having had a stroke in the middle of the night, what are you going to do with that gift of life, that gift of ability? So if you are always mindful that every day is a gift and live it purposefully, meaningfully, when the end comes, where does the fear surface?
That must be the secret to your very positive spirit. Throughout the conversation that I had, the lovely lunch, and then subsequently we met online, you were always brimming with this positivism, very positive outlook in life. What would you give, an advice to someone who's gripped with end of life anxiety?
Well, examine your fear. What is it that you are really fearful about? And as I said, usually it is to do with unfinished business. Maybe some reconciliation that needed to be done, some regrets, maybe to say sorry to someone that you have hurt. Whatever it is, just reflect upon it and then try as best as possible to get it done. Do your best. And I think that will go a long way to easing the fear of end of life itself. Other than that, it's just purely a medical thing where you feel some pain, some medical condition, and that palliative care itself goes a long way to easing it and enabling you to have a better quality of life for whatever remains, and for you to complete the unfinished business.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, as a gerontologist too, right? Our view is about, let's not even talk about how much of time you have. It's what can you do, and if there is pain, how can we relieve the pain? so you have the maximum quality of life. As you rightfully said, what are some of the unfinished business that we do?
I witnessed this myself. My own father in the mid-80s, when he was diagnosed with advanced liver cancer. Those days, the field of oncology wasn't so well known and so well developed. But we decided that it was an issue for my mother and father to discuss and decide themselves, because in the mid-80s, to operate itself is a high risk, and we probably won't survive the operation. So after some discussion, my father came back to us and said, actually all I need is 2 more weeks, and I will have completed all that plan. So to fulfill his desire, what they did was to give him a blood transfusion, 2 pints of blood, because that helps the liver to process and to prolong his life, at least for that 2 weeks. And after 1 week, my mother came and told us, she said, Dad says he's done everything. And we knew it was just a matter of today or tomorrow. And sure enough, having completed the unfinished business, he died.
That is so remarkable. How has that impacted you as a person? I mean, to see your parents go through this, right? And what was the impact on your mom? I mean, they have spent decades of married life together. But for them to say this, although it looks so practical and pragmatic, but there must be so much of centeredness, resilience, gratitude for them to actually hold up and say that all I need is just that 2 weeks.
What is faith? Is having a belief, so that helps a lot. In itself, the experience benefited my mom when her own death came about many years later. Because even though my dad had very advanced liver cancer, in the end, as a nun put it very appropriately, everybody prayed for him to have a miraculous cure from his liver cancer, but he died of heart attack. So the nun said, it's not that your prayers were not answered, but Christ still wanted him. So he didn't go against your wishes, but instead called him out with a heart attack. So when the time is up, it's up. And you just don't know. But most of us live our life as if we're going to live forever, especially when you're at a young age. And so we don't think about it, we don't prepare about it until serious illness afflicts us, and then we realize that we're running out of time. Then it becomes a race against time. But if you live each day fruitfully, there's very little fear about running out of time.
So true.